Morning, this is Nicholas from Gandor Gaming, and today I'll be discussing the One Piece ban list with you all today because in a couple weeks we're getting the One Piece ban list. I think on the 16th it'll be officially revealed for us in the OCG and TCG, which is really exciting news and really terrifying news because a lot of shit's gonna be coming out, and who knows what's gonna get hit and who knows what decks are going to ultimately fall because of it. So this is kind of my prediction list slash discussion video. I'll be discussing cards that people have thrown at me at my locals, saying if they should or should not be hit, and going from there. So let's get straight into this. So first things first, we're going to start off color by color and work our way up. We're going to start with red, work our way up to yellow, and see how it goes from here. So first things first, we have red, and honestly, I don't think anything in the red card pool needs to be even limited or even hit at all. The best red deck right now is currently Shanks, and even he is currently falling down in the meta due to the new leaders in OPO 11. I think purple and blue are actually kind of taking center stage with all the new purple Luffy leaders and the brand new blue Nami leader all running amok, and of course blue purple Luffy leader. I feel like we don't have to worry about red necessarily. Now, don't get me wrong, red still has some really good strong cards. I heard some people saying, hey, Silver Israeli might be getting hit. But to be perfectly honest with you, I am completely against that idea. One, it hasn't been reprinted yet. Two, it's not got strong enough for the card to be hit. And three, red is not in a good place to get hit because the best leader in the format is Shanks, and even he's falling out. So red is actually like a very bad spot right now when it comes to the meta. Next, we have the next red card that actually might be coming off the list, that being Moby Dick. This is a stage card that came out in OPO 2, and I was fortunate enough and unfortunate enough to play against this card. If you don't know, Moby Dick is a stage, a 2-cost stage that Trigger plays itself for free, and its basic effect is that, hey, during your turn, if you are 1 or less life, your Edward Newgate and all your characters with Whitebeard Pirates type gain 2,000 power this turn. Basically saying, hey, if you are playing the Whitebeard package, once you reach 1 life, all your characters gain a 2k boost without using any Dawn. That is a very scary ability, especially since it's just a trigger play for free. It's a very scary card overall. And I think this card has a lot of potential to stay banned. However, I feel like red is in a spot right now in the meta where it might actually need this card to come back. The only decks that actually this card benefits are decks playing the Whitebeard Pirates engines, and all those decks are tier 2 at best. Red Blue Marco is a tier 2 deck. Ace is a tier 2 deck. Whitebeard is a tier 2 deck. All these decks have kind of fallen out of the meta, and this might be the card needed to bring them back to life and actually be able to compete into the modern day. Of course, Whitebeard himself, the main leader, most benefits from this card because unlike the other 2 leaders we discussed, this card buffs the leader as well if your leader is Edward Newgate. Thus, it's actually really good in that deck. Do I think it's enough to make Whitebeard Pirate decks back into the meta? Maybe. Maybe as a really strong rogue option, even stronger than they already are now. However, ultimately, I just feel like red needs some love, and I wouldn't be surprised if Moby Dick came back to 4. Next, we gotta talk about green. There's literally only 1 card in the entire green card pool that I can even consider banning, and that's Eustace Captain Mid or Eustace Captain Kid. The Great Wall of China has entered our frame with the introduction of the brand new Tashigi in OPO 10. This card is kind of a nightmare to deal with. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. An 8-cost 8K that basically says, hey, if you cannot remove me and my protection stay through, and you can't beat me by battle, then I kind of just win the game. It's a very powerful green card that is kind of running amok. Decks like Red Green Smoker are abusing it. I think there's some Limb decks using it, and maybe even Green Purple Luffy has a choice of using it. It's very debatable there. However, there's a lot of powerful green decks that would love to use this card. Bonnie, Boa, what am I saying? Bonnie and Carrot and a whole bunch of other green decks. However, I feel like green is in a similar spot to red, where they're barely hanging on to the meta. Like, I know Red Green Smoker is currently one of the best decks in OPO 10. However, as of OPO 11, when the format actually develops even more, green is kind of falling out of favor. Like, I know Purple Green Luffy is a deck, and he might be the best deck of EBO 2. However, I don't think that deck is playing Kid. I could be wrong. There could be some Kid list. I could be mistaken. However, after EBO2 and we enter OPO11, Green kind of just falls off. Like, don't get me wrong. Jinbei is a cool leader. The new Shirahoshi leader has potential. But that's kind of it. None of the new cards in OPO11 actually are that great for any generic green leader. Thus, Green kind of falls off in OPO11. So I don't think Green's going to take any hits. If anything, Useless Captain Kid needs another buff to keep in touch with all these crazy purple blue decks and all these crazy purple and yellow. I don't know where I'm going with this. Purple's kind of out there right now. Purple's kind of doing its own shit, and it's kind of crazy. But we'll get to purple. Next card we got to discuss is blue. Now, blue, there's a lot of cards in blue that could be hit. I'm not going to lie to you guys. There's a lot to discuss here. First things first, a lot of people said Pudding needs to go. And I can kind of see an argument for this. Pudding, shuffling back an opponent's hand until they draw 5. As a 4-cost, a 1k counter, 4,000 power character, that is a very powerful effect. And I can agree to some extent. However, I feel like it's a very balanced card at the end of the day. Like, your opponent is still going to have 5 cards in hand. This is basically saying, hey, when you're going against a blue deck, you always got to be mindful of how much counter you have in hand and how many cards you have in hand. And this card kind of counters some of the most annoying decks in the format, like decks that want to hide behind Eustace Captain Kid, decks like Enel that want to have like 50 cards in life. And I think because of that, I think Pudding can stay. However, I can definitely see an issue if blue continues to be a problem in the future with the introduction of blue-purple Luffy and, of course, blue-yellow Nami entering the format. Blue Pudding might need to be hit. However, I actually think there's other cards in the card pool that you get hit before this. So let's talk about that. So we have a current Don Quixote Doflamingo problem facing us today. Don Quixote Doflamingo has been a tier 1 deck for about 7-8 months now. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Ever since OPO7, this deck has been declared the best deck for about 6 to 7 months. So just kind of crazy. And it's my favorite leader, so I am biased on this. However, I don't think this leader has ever been tier 0. I'm going to be completely honest with you. This leader, it feels like Whitebeard, where he was good for a couple formats. However, he ultimately got power crept out of the game. Now, not out of the game necessarily. He's still a strong rogue deck, but he ultimately does fall through. And what I mean by that is, as of EBO2, we all think purple-green Luffy is great into Don Quixote Doflamingo. And I can confirm that. It's a really good matchup for that deck. Another good matchup in EBO1 or OPO11 is the next 2 decks. I think blue-yellow Nami and blue-purple Luffy bully Doflamingo. I really do. I've been playing with Dolphy, trying out the new cards, seeing if it's any good, and honestly, blue-purple Luffy kind of beats Dolphy's ass. And because of that, I don't think the leader should be banned. I feel like this is not a tier 0 leader. Anytime this leader has been one of the best decks, it's been one of the most healthy formats we've ever seen. This deck isn't really gatekeeping other decks out of the format, like other decks that have been notoriously meta, like Red Purple Law. Honestly, this deck feels pretty fair for all things considered. However, there is a couple cards that people will argue are unfair. That being Jinbei, 4-cost Law, and of course, 2-cost Marshall D. Teach. Now, these are the 3 cards people have been discussing when it comes to like ultimately hitting. Personally, I think what they're going to do, because they're not banning the Law, is that Marshall D. Teach will ultimately be the ban target, just due to the fact that a lot of people in the meta have been saying if you ban Jinbei or Law, you kill Boa, even though Boa is already falling out of the meta, so I don't know if that matters. People are saying, well, they're going to reprint Law, because Law is getting reprinted. The hit has to be either Jinbei or Teach, and Teach is the only card that Blue Dolphy plays that Boa doesn't play. Another reason why not to hit Jinbei or Law is due to the fact of a new meta deck that might have huge potential in EBO2, Roronoa Zoro Sanji. This green-blue deck actually seems kind of crazy, and it needs these cards in order to stay relevant, and hitting Jinbei is just not the right call because it hurts this new deck that we haven't even received yet. Well, we've received them, but his best form is yet to come, which is kind of exciting. So ultimately, I think when they're going to hit for the Dolphy deck, they're going to end up banning Blackbeard, which kind of sucks because I've been using him as a tech card in Ace and in Queen. However, that's fine. Ultimately, his sins of being too good for Blue Dolphy makes sense. No longer can you stack the cards in your hand onto the top of your deck in order to just guarantee the plays. Now you have to guarantee the stack, so it makes sense. And overall, that's pretty fine with me. Next color we gotta discuss is purple, and honestly, when it comes to purple, there's only two cards we gotta discuss. That being Black Maria and Gum Gum Giant. I'm gonna get this right off the way. Black Maria is already a no-go. For one, it is not seen in any meta deck right now. Like, don't get me wrong, this card is stupid, and it's one of those problematic cards will eventually need to be banned, just because it's the reason why Red Purple Law got banned to begin with. This card is pretty insane. There's the fact that it can ramp you 5 is pretty stupid, and there is some really cool things you could do, and like Black Purple Luffy, for example. However, that deck already is kind of on the rogue tier, and all the other best purple decks are not even playing this card. Thus, this card is really not that great, and is currently at most. The next card we gotta discuss in purple, though, does probably need to get banned. That's Gum Gum Giant. This card is absolutely stupid. Now, originally, it was fine because there was only like 2 or 3 decks that could ultimately play this card. But as of OPO 11, I think there's a total of 6 leaders that are all meta competitive, by the way, that are just main decking for these cards. So first is first, the weakest of the bunch, Nico Robin and Black Purple Luffy. Both these leaders can play Gum Gum Giant, and it's a pretty devastating card in those decks. Purple Luffy, of course, has been running amok as one of the best decks in the game, and it plays 4 copies of Gum Gum Giant. Red Purple Luffy is, of course, a staple, really solid leader, also playing Gum Gum Giant. And now, with the introduction of EBO 2, we have Green Purple Luffy that's also playing Gum Gum Giant. And then now, as of OPO 11, the best deck in the game, Blue Purple Luffy, is also playing Gum Gum Giant. That is a total of 6 leaders abusing this one-cost event, and it's kind of terrifying. And I think this card could definitely go, just for the simple fact that they actually kind of already replaced this card. For Blue, they already have a new Gum Gum Giant card that's coming out in OPO 11. I think it's Gum Gum King Cobra. I mean, this is the new card that kind of replaces Gum Gum Giant. It's not as good, obviously, because it's not drawing cards. However, it's basically Radical Beam, but it requires you to have less cards in hand instead of less life. So, no one's playing this card because, obviously, why would you play this when you could just play Giant? Another card that is already kind of insane, that I'm not going to say needs to get hit yet, because it really doesn't, but it's kind of just an insane card, is Gears Second. I think this card comes out at OPO 11. Let me see, Gear Second. Yeah, this card's absolutely stupid. It's another Straw Hat card that comes out in OPO 11. This card not only can just optionally ramp you 1, but it's also just a 1-cost 3,000 power card event, which is pretty just nice for a 1-cost. Overall, just another great card that Purple has. And I think with the addition of this event, I feel like it would be fair if Gum Gum Giant got banned. Like, I'm just being honest with you. Having 8 stupid 1-cost events that are just absolutely insane, I feel like that's a little too much. I don't like that every deck that is Straw Hat can just play 4 copies of Geared Second to help them ramp in the early game, or just use it in the late game as like a free 3-cost, and they can Gum Gum Giant just to drawing cards and gaining 4,000 power. I don't think that's good. I think that Gum Gum Giant was already a problem. Now there's like 2 of them. So you can play basically 8 copies of this card. It's kind of nasty. And yeah, I think Gum Gum Giant needs to go. My opinion. That is it for purple. If I was talking about the new OPO 11 cards, I might throw that new Katakuri on this list, because that Katakuri is actually kind of stupid. However, OPO 11 just came out. They're not going to hit that card. Shit, the East hasn't even had a chance to even play with it yet. Why the hell would they ban a card that hasn't even had like a week's worth of play tile? However, I do want to mention that card because that new 8-cost blocker Katakuri, at least for the last 3 days or 2 days, the sim's been updated. I've been playing with it. That card's way stronger than I ever thought it was. It might be the best card in OPO 11. No joke. That new 8-cost 8K Katakuri is actually cracked out of its mind. Next, we got to talk about the next color, which is black. Honestly, this is pretty simple. There's a couple of cards you got to discuss for black. First things first, when it comes to Blackbeard, people have been saying Jesus Burgess needs to get banned. I'm not sure about Jesus Burgess. This is, don't get me wrong, a very powerful card in the deck. It's a 4-cost 5k, 1000 counter. This card cannot be KO'd by your opponent's card effects. If your leader is Blackbeard Pirates, it gains 1000 power for each 4 cards in your trash. And this card could be revived with the brand new Kuzan that comes out in OPO 10, which is very scary. However, I feel like killing this card kills Blackbeard in whole, because this is kind of like besides 10-drop Teach, this is the only card they use to actually put pressure on you. It's Teach, Burgess, and the leader himself. Those are the only real swings the deck has. And killing Burgess, I don't know if it's the right play. Especially once we enter OPO 11, I don't know how Blackbeard stacks up against these other decks like Blue Purple Luffy or Yellow Blue Nami. I don't know how these leaders fare into Blackbeard. Don't get me wrong, Blackbeard is getting a new structure deck, which is very scary. However, we don't have not any idea what any of those cards are, and we don't even know if Blackbeard is going to stay meta relevant. Like, he probably is. He's still a really strong anti-meta / meta deck. I say anti-meta because he counters the meta so much he's actually meta. But I don't know if Jesus Burgess is the right call. The next card we got to talk about is Gecko Moria and Rebecca. I don't know which one of these need to be hit, but one of them has to. I know Rob Lucci isn't really doing anything right now, and it's the deck that uses this combo the most. However, Rob Lucci is only being contained because of how crazy every other deck is. That's the only reason why Rob Lucci isn't one of the best decks, because of a deck like Blackbeard countering it so hard. If Blackbeard was not around, this deck would be the best black deck. No joke. The fact you can go 8-cost Gecko Moria into Rebecca, KO a character, set up a blocker, set up another character is very stupid. Blackbeard is the only thing keeping this thing from being everywhere in the format, and that's kind of scary, and I don't like that. So honestly, if we're going to hit Jesus Burgess for Blackbeard, we need to hit a card for Rob Lucci to balance it out. If we're not going to ban Gecko Moria because, Black Yellow Luffy needs it, then I think we're going to need to ban Rebecca. Rebecca is already not being seen play in Dressrosa decks. This card was made for Dressrosa leaders, and Usopp is not even playing this card in that deck. Thus, I don't know. I feel like this combo of Rebecca to Gecko Moria, one of these cards needs to go. And I don't think they're going to ban Gecko, so I think Rebecca, it's time for you to go. I could be wrong. They could ban Gecko, or they may re-errata Gecko. I'm not really sure. But one of these 3 cards needs to be hit. Oh, and Ice Age. Fuck this card. This 1-cost event. Ban this card out of its eyes. The Gecko Moria, the Rebecca, and the Jesus Burgess are all debatable. However, Ice Age definitely needs to go. It's a 1-cost event from OPO2 that gives -5 cost to a character. And this trigger just kills a 3 cost. This card's going to be a staple black card in every deck going forward. Fucking ban this card. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It makes black killing multiple 9-drop or lower characters so easily. It's kind of stupid, and I think this card needs to go. Next we have for yellow. I guess yellow is the final color. Honestly, there's so many cards I wanted to say for yellow that are just annoying. However, none of them are good. Yellow right now is not doing the best spot, but Yellow Black Luffy still exists, but that's more of a it's a black yellow deck. I don't know how to explain that one, but I don't know. Yellow Black. Let's go. What's the yellow card that should be hit? I guess You're the One Who Should Disappear. That's the only thing I can think of. Personally, yellow is not really doing so hot right now, which is kind of crazy, because we all thought Enel was going to be the best deck with the release of the new 10-drop. However, yellow Enels ain't doing shit right now, because all the best decks kind of are doing what Enel does, but better, which is spamming gigantic-ass characters on the field. So, I don't know. I personally don't know what the yellow hit would be if they ever did hit yellow. Personally, I think yellow, green, and red are pretty safe on this ban list. Red, if anything, is going to get Moby Dick back, but I don't think they'll lose anything in their card pool. Black might lose Gecko or Rebecca or Ice Age, maybe even Jesus Burgess, but I don't think I think that's about it on them. Purple may finally ban Gumgum Giant. I think this card definitely needs to go. And then for blue, they might ban Blackbeard and they might ban Pudding. but that's really all I can see there. So that's it for my video. I hope you all enjoy. Don't do anything stupid. See you on the next one, and bye-bye.